Thumbtack presents Uncertainty Strikes. I was surrounded. The aisle and the options were closing in. There were paint rollers, satin and matte finish, angle brushes, and natural bristles. There were too many choices. What if I never got my living room painted? What if I couldn't figure out what type of paint to use? What if I just used Thumbtack? I can hire a top-rated pro that knows everything about interior paint, easily compare prices, and read reviews. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
Welcome into the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. Alex, it's a big show today.
It's a big show.
It's a huge show.
We have something really, really important and something really, really interesting coming up here on Tuesday, and we're excited to dive in and break it all down as we get ready for what we believe and what I think a lot of people believe here inside the state of Utah will be a franchise-changing decision for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, this is the last show where it's speculation.
Yes.
Right? This is the last show where we don't know who's going to be suiting up. And then come Tuesday night, it's going to be such a big night. They're having a draft party, obviously, and then we're going to have the roundtable show on the station as we always do. It's going to be great. We're sending Ben Anderson over to New York right now. He's flying out there as we speak. So we're blowing it out, man, because the Jazz have the number 2 pick. They're going to add a phenomenal talent. And I think that's the biggest thing is finally knowing who it's going to be after months of speculation
after so
and
much
guessing.
discourse, yeah.
That's what we're going to talk about today because there's new stuff coming out, right?
Absolutely. Every day. And, of course, take it with a grain of salt because it is lying season, and this is the time of year where everybody wants to have some type of advantage, so and some type of, smoke screens out there and wanting to misdirect people, essentially, as you get ready for Tuesday night, because ultimately I think if you're the Washington Wizards, if you're the Utah Jazz, you don't want what your plan is out there. And Austin A just come on the station and has said,
yes.
and has talked about not even telling his wife.
And I believe the hope is to get Austin on again Monday,
yes.
the day before the draft. So that would be great,
Absolutely.
To hear his thoughts one final time. But Alex, we'll start there because, as you mentioned, it's lying season, and if you're the Wizards, right, you want to try and, there's an infamous story of when the Celtics were the number 1 pick and they traded down with Philly, and Philly drafted Markelle Fultz and he was a bust, and the Celtics ended up getting their guy Jason Tatum, which is who they wanted all along, but they were able to essentially fleece Philly for that pick, right? That's what the Wizards want to do to the Jazz. Ironically enough, Danny Ainge is in the front office for the Jazz, and his son Austin runs it. He's the president. So good luck Ainging the Jazz when they've got Ainge squared in the front office, right? But the Wizards are trying to dangle A.J. Dybantsa over the Jazz's heads and say, okay, well, if you want him, maybe we'll take him. So if you want him so bad, you'll have to trade up. We don't even know if A.J. Dybantsa is who the Jazz want, right? Because, again, 3 prospects between Dybantsa, Cam Boozer, and Darryn Peterson. I think they'd be happy with any one of the 3. I think at this point, the Jazz do have their guy nailed down. As you mentioned, they're not telling anybody, so we don't know who it's going to be, but I guess we'll see come draft night if they do trade up to 1. I personally don't think they will. Sounds like most people don't think the Jazz are going to trade up, because why would you, right?
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of trade-down discourse online as well.
For Utah.
Whether or not they try to entice Memphis to make a decision similar to the one that happened, that Celtics draft you were just talking about, where the Jazz can dangle some opportunities in front of the Memphis Grizzlies or somebody below them and say, hey, look, if they believe that the guy that they want will still be available if they trade down, then that's something that's still on the table. I don't expect, nor do I think, nor do I feel that's going to happen.
Trading down.
But I did see a lot of discourse online of people talking about, well, what if the Jazz do this?
I think at that point it's just people bored.
Yeah. I think it's just people.
It's just people bored.
It's just people, wanting to throw their theories out there and wanting to have the conversations, because it is a conversation that I'm sure even the Jazz front office had. But again, I don't feel like that will be the case. I think ultimately, whatever happens with Washington, whether they take AJ Dybantsa, whether they take Darryn Peterson, whether they take Cam Boozer, whether they completely come out of left field and take someone unexpected. I think that the Jazz will make their selection at number 2 rather than trading it down.
Or up.
I
agree. But the latest discourse, so I think it was yesterday morning / Thursday, middle of the night-ish, all of a sudden there's this momentum for Darryn Peterson to be the number 1 pick.
Yes.
And it's kind of come out of nowhere. But you had Jonathan Givony saying that he's had Darryn Peterson as his number 1 player in the draft, the entire time, and he's been pounding the table for that. Draft quote-unquote expert, I guess. And then Jeremy Woo, ESPN's draft analyst, in his final draft rankings, moved Darryn Peterson into the number 1 spot over AJ Dybantsa for whatever that means. Now, that doesn't mean anything, but it's funny now that 3-4 days before the draft, you're getting all of this discourse where the lottery night happens and it's, the Wizards have the number 1 pick. They're taking AJ Dybantsa. And are we tired of talking about that same storyline and we decide to change our minds now? Or is this a smokescreen?
No, I think it comes into, what was it, Monday morning when I woke up and there was a report from Shams Charania from ESPN who, of course, says that Darryn Peterson cancels his workouts with his remaining teams.
Right, and that's part of it as well.
After he goes and visits Washington, and then, of course, our own Ben Anderson drops out that his camp fully believes and is very confident that he is going to be the number 1 overall pick. That's just adding on to what was happening already on earlier in the week where, he cancels his workouts and then everybody just kind of brings it back and says, yeah, Darryn Peterson's going to be number 1. And I think, everything heading into the heading into the college basketball season was that Darryn Peterson was going to be the number 1. And I still think before all the cramping, before the season even started, Darryn Peterson was at the top of everybody's board. And I don't think that has maybe not necessarily that has changed among what the NBA GMs believe.
So to rehash what you're saying, the timeline of this week, Monday morning, Darryn Peterson had a workout with Washington, went really well, went so well that he decides to cancel his workout with Utah, not because it has anything to do with Utah or the Jazz or not wanting to play for that organization. It has nothing to do with that. It's simply because his workout with Washington went so well and he believes he's going to be the number 1 pick. Then 3 days later, all the quote-unquote draft analysts are saying, oh, yeah, he's at the top of the board. He's our number 1 player in the draft now. So, again, is it all a smokescreen or is any of this real? Is, the pick going to come in, number 1, and is it going to be AJ Dybantsa? Or are the Wizards going to take Darryn Peterson and Dybantsa is going to be on the board for Ryan Smith, the Angels, and the Utah Jazz?
I will say Monday afternoon after Ben Anderson drops his article about the Darryn Peterson situation, I did hear a collective cheer across the Utah Valley because I think a lot of people thought that AJ Dybantsa will be a Jazz man.
Yeah. If you stop talking for a second, you could
you
hear
heard it.
It like echoes up from Provo, right? Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what, man? I think again, no matter what the Washington Wizards decide to do, whether it is Peterson, whether it is AJ, whether it is Cam Boozer, the Jazz will have. I think that's part of the shine, I guess, of having the number 2 overall pick. That's part of the opportunity that you get at the number 2 overall pick is that you still have, especially in this draft.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say this about last year's draft. I don't know if I can say this about the some other drafts, but in this draft particularly, I think you have 4 guys at the top who can really be franchise-changing players, and the Jazz are essentially going to have 3 guys to pick from that can be that player that the Angels and that the front office and that the Utah Jazz believe that it's someone that can be your best player for, in the next 5-6 years plus.
Well, you know what this all reminds me of? It's funny because this happens all the time, right? You're locked into AJ Dybantsa being the number 1 pick, and it's a storyline for months, and then all of a sudden, days before the draft, there's rumors trying to change the boards, trying to change the betting odds and the prediction markets. And I tweeted this out yesterday. This is so reminiscent of the 2023 draft when Brandon Miller was the number 2 pick to Charlotte Everybody knew that was the pick, and Scoot Henderson was going to go number 3. But for some reason, hours before the draft, Shams Charania, ESPN's insider, and I believe that was his first year as the insider for ESPN.
I think you're right.
Or maybe it was his last year for The Athletic. I can't remember. But either way, hours before the draft, out of nowhere, Shams tweets that Scoot Henderson is gaining serious momentum to be the number 2 pick to Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody bets on that to happen, and what happens during the draft? Charlotte takes Brandon Miller, and Scoot goes number 3 to Portland. And so Shams got in all this trouble because he works for ESPN, and they, of course, at the time had their ESPN bet, and they're funded by, all these betting companies and stuff. And it's like, you can't do that.
That's
not okay, right?
Yeah. That to me just sounds like agent talk.
Right.
Agents trying to drum up. In this case, right? The trying to drum up Scoot Henderson, right? They want the number 2 pick. They want to have that attached to his name essentially, and so the agents drive it up, and then of course it gets to Shams, and Shams being a media person reports it. Right.
So is all this media talk from Darryn Peterson's camp?
That's where I'm kind of going with it, man. Is the competition has always been there between AJ and Darryn. It goes back to the AAU days. It goes back to the high school days of jockeying for who's the number 1 player. Right.
Yeah.
It happened when AJ Dybantsa signs with BYU. He is the number 1 prospect, and then all of a sudden Darryn Peterson overtakes him as the number 1 prospect, and so Darryn Peterson heads into the college basketball season as the number 1 recruit. Right? It's jockeying for position. It's jockeying for who's the number 1. Right? I am better than you, and that's kind of what this feels like. It's maybe there was someone within Darryn Peterson's camp who seriously felt like AJ Dybantsa was going to be the number 1 overall pick. They go out and they say, hey, we're going to cancel all of our workouts and all of the rest of our things because our guy's going to be the number 1 overall pick. We want his name to be attached with the number 1 overall pick, not AJ Dybantsa's. That's what this feels like.
Even if they don't actually feel that way, they're trying to will it into existence.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
They're trying to make Washington second guess themselves and say, you know what, maybe we should take this Darryn Peterson guy, because as you're saying, and this is a point that we've talked about before the college basketball season, Darryn Peterson was the guy. Like, for as good as AJ Dybantsa is and was, and everybody knew that AJ was going to be a great prospect at BYU, Darryn Peterson was better.
Right.
Darryn Peterson was the guy. And the reason that we're kind of so familiar, obviously, is because with the Jazz sitting at 2, we've been doing a lot of homework on Darryn Peterson, because a lot of people think he could be coming here. So now you're to this point where you've been talking yourself basically into Darryn Peterson, and it's like, okay, is that even going to happen? Or are we just going to have AJ come here finally? Or is it going to be Cam and none of this matters? And that would be the funniest outcome, I think. But
it absolutely would be, right? Washington holds all the cards. They hold all the power. They can throw a wrinkle in everybody's draft board by going out of left field. Everybody's talking about Darryn Peterson and AJ Dybantsa. No one's talking about Cam Boozer as the number 1 overall pick. But I still think that Cam Boozer has done enough, has shown enough to earn being in the conversation of being the number 1 overall pick.
Number 1 even. Not just number 2 to the
Not
Jazz.
just
You think number 1 to Washington.
I think it's 3 at the top, and everybody's caught up in AJ and everybody's caught up in Darryn, and that's fine. But I think Cam Boozer has done enough to earn being a part of that conversation, which to say again is the Washington Wizards hold all the cards, and they can throw a wrench in everybody's plans by taking Cam Boozer number 1.
Maybe that's part of it. Maybe they do want Cam, and that's why you're hearing so much AJ smoke. And then when it's like, okay, well, the Jazz are fine with Darryn Peterson, then it's like, oh, wait, actually, maybe the Wizards will take Darryn Peterson instead.
Right. And then, on draft night, whoops.
Yeah. So
Cam
getting
Boozer.
somebody to trade up, then the Wizards are like, actually, Cam was our guy all along.
Exactly.
I don't know, man. And that's what, it's exhausting, but it's a lot of fun, right? With this draft cycle, especially this year specifically, because there's 2 players with local ties, and all 3 are just incredible talents. And not to mention Caleb Wilson. I feel bad kind of leaving him out, but he's not quite the same tier as a prospect as the other 3 guys. But the Utah Jazz they're in a spot, number 1, that hopefully they're not going to be in for a very long time. Right. They're in a spot where they have a chance to really add a player who could be a top 5 player in the league whether that is AJ or Darryn Peterson. So I want to talk about some of these prospects again. I know we spent a little bit of time on it last week, but basically...
Before we move on to that, how much do we read into Trae Young not taking his player extension?
So Trae Young has a player option, and he declined it
Right.
this offseason. And the funny thing with the NBA is the free agency is after the draft. So it would be funny. We're hearing now that he's declining his player option. The presumption is that they are expected to renegotiate anyways on a new contract, but maybe he's announcing that he's declining it now because he heard they're going to take Darryn Peterson, right? They're both ball-dominant guards. Darren says he wants to be a point guard. So I definitely wouldn't be shocked, right?
My mind ultimately thinks that they'll work it out, right? They'll re-sign. He'll take an extension with Washington, and he'll be a part of the Washington Wizards team. But, there's that little voice in the back of my head that's like, hey, what if he doesn't? And what if this is all true? What if Darryn Peterson is going to be the number 1 overall pick to essentially fill in that void that Trae Young will leave behind?
I could see it.
Yeah.
And that trade never made sense. And same with the Anthony Davis one, right? And of course, they didn't know that they were going to be in this position, the number 1 overall pick to, get their choice of players from this draft. But it looked incredibly stupid. If you made that trade at the deadline. I know they didn't give up a lot, right? They gave up, I think, just a couple vets, right? What's his name? CJ McCollum. I don't even remember the other players.
Right.
It was essentially CJ McCollum for Trae Young. But why do that?
Oh, it's also funny. We had that Washington guy to come on a couple weeks ago, and he talked about how bought in, I guess, the fan base was on Trae Young, and how bought in the front office is on Trae Young.
Yeah, he sounded really high on him.
And then everybody was really high on Trae Young, and now all of a sudden he's declining his player option. And
you're hearing too that the Heat might be interested in him.
There you go. I still think ultimately they renegotiate. He ends up signing a deal with Washington, and it works out. But again, that just seeing that breaking news notification of, hey, Trae Young is opting out of his player option. There's that voice in the back of your head that says, conveniently timed with all this Darryn Peterson stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
conveniently timed. Yeah,
conveniently timed. And so again, that's where that little voice in the back of the head comes from that says, hey, what if it's not that smokescreen that we thought it was? What if the Washington Wizards are actually going to take Darryn Peterson number 1?
So, gut feeling right now. What do you think? You think Washington really goes Darryn Peterson?
Oh, man. Gut feeling right now, I still think AJ Dybantsa is the number 1 overall.
Okay.
And then the Jazz will pick between Darryn Peterson and Cam Boozer.
I had a dream.
Oh!
for what it's worth.
Okay.
And this was the night that all this Darryn Peterson stuff happened. But I've got a newborn, so I went to bed early.
Yeah.
So I missed all of that. I woke up to it.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially my dream was timed up with all this stuff. I had a dream that the Wizards took Darryn Peterson and the Jazz drafted AJ Dybantsa.
Okay. All right.
Do you think the Jazz
I guess we'll see where we're at next Saturday, man, when we're sitting here.
You think the Jazz would pass on AJ?
No, come on now. Well, okay.
For Cam?
That is an interesting question.
Right. That's why I'm asking.
That is an interesting question because of the ties both of those guys have to the Utah Jazz.
Right. I guess the way I should ask it, is it a 100% guarantee that if AJ Dybantsa is on the board when the Jazz pick that they draft him?
I am genuinely curious how much of a conundrum the Utah Jazz front office would be if AJ and Cam Boozer are both available at 2.
Yeah.
Because obviously, right, AJ, the BYU prospect, has the ties to Provo. There was that funny clip with him and Gilbert Arenas where he's like, Utah's not a city, talking about Gilbert Arenas asking him if he wants to stay home, etc. And then you have, of course, the familial tie with Carlos Boozer, who is a scout in the front office for the Utah Jazz, and both of them being available at 2, I think would be a very interesting situation.
Yeah. That'd be crazy.
And how much the Jazz war room would be scrambling on who to pick.
Well, I think regardless of who they're picking between, I know the front office is split. Even if the day the draft comes and they have their consensus on the board, right? But there's still fans of each of those three players in the room.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no matter who they're picking between, somebody's going to be like, oh, that's my guy. He fell to us.
I wonder if the arguments that Austin Ainge was talking about with his dad, I wonder if that's part of it, whether it's AJ, whether it's Cam.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Or Darryn.
Yeah.
And not even his own dad, like Carlos Boozer.
Yeah.
Probably pounding the table pretty hard.
To be a fly on that wall, Christian.
Well, and Austin said that that Carlos Boozer is involved when they, even if they don't bring these players in for workouts, but they take them out to dinner and stuff. Carlos is involved in those.
Yep.
And it's a very select group of people. Like, it's not the entire front office. I mean, I don't want to leave anybody out, but Austin basically mentioned it was, I know he said Danny, Will Hardy, Carlos, maybe Justin Zanuck.
I can't remember.
But they bring Carlos,
right? And
it's like one of the prospects' dads.
Yes.
So I think that's super interesting, obviously, but it is. We knew it was going to be interesting when we knew that Cam was coming down the pipeline, and then Caden next year. So, I mean, must be a proud dad, obviously.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Again, just being involved in the conversation of these guys can go number one overall, and. He had a tremendous season this year. I know Duke didn't necessarily reach the levels that they wanted to, but there was a lot shown from Cam Boozer to prove and to show that he was and earned that National Player of the Year award.
But he's third, behind AJ and Darryn.
Yep.
At least that's what they're telling me.
At least that's what we're seeing.
I know. Okay, let's take a break. Coming up next, I know we're draft heavy. It's a big show today. So we're going to stick with the draft. We're going to talk about some of the pros and cons with some of these prospects as far as AJ and Cam and Darryn Peterson. We're going to talk about what the Jazz potentially might be getting with who they draft. So we'll do that next. Stick with us. And Chandler Holt, Jazz Insider, is going to join us at 11. Stick with it as well. So stay tuned. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The grill is shot. The chairs are held together by optimism. And what happened to the rug? Sounds like your outdoor setup is not ready for patio season. Fix it all with Wayfair. Shop Wayfair for grills, rugs, furniture, and more. With 20 million 5-star reviews, room of choice delivery, and expert setup on qualifying orders, it's never been easier to do more for less. Get 10% off your first eligible purchase. Hurry to wayfair.com or download the app now.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. Thank you for making us a part of your weekend. Tuning in. Alex, before we dip back into the draft, it's going to be very draft heavy today, obviously, with the NBA draft coming up quick on Tuesday. We've got some other Jazz news that we've got to hit real fast. Walker Kessler, the Utah Jazz, still not quite on the same page. Walker Kessler going to be a restricted free agent once free agency begins. Sounds like there's an offer on the table. There was a bit of drama this week, and Walker kind of had to come out and clear the air.
Yes. Walker Kessler, essentially, what was the number being thrown out there? 5 years.
It's
about 140 million.
Yeah, which would equate to $28 million per year.
That was the number thrown out there this week for Walker Kessler. Essentially, it sounds like they're at an impasse right now because of Walker's camp wants a little bit more. Everybody from national media picks up the story. Sam Amick, Brian Windhorst, and his podcast, and they were talking about Walker Kessler being unhappy. That in turn leads to a lot of discourse online from Utah Jazz fans being upset that Walker Kessler is unhappy. And then, of course, Walker Kessler jumps on Instagram and says, hey, you don't plant roots where you don't want to be, essentially. And
he comes out and says he wants to be in Utah.
Comes out, says he wants to be in Utah, and we'll see where that then leaves negotiations. I do believe that Walker Kessler wants to be a Utah Jazz man.
Yeah. They don't need to sign him yesterday or the day before or today or tomorrow. I mean, we can maybe, I know they're focused on the draft, right? But there's still a chance that he gets locked up before free agency begins, and it doesn't matter. Or maybe they let him test the market. If his team really thinks that he could get more money because the Jazz are going to get the opportunity to match, I would be shocked if somebody makes an offer that the Jazz wouldn't be willing to match. Just because Walker Kessler's not that type of player. If you look at that $28 million per year number, that's right around Isaiah Hartenstein and guys that are very similar to Walker Kessler's play style and career accomplishments, right?
Right.
You're talking about a non-all-star center. So I think it's very fair, and a lot of teams are worried. A lot of people are worried about someone like the Lakers or some of these teams that are going to have money in free agency, offering a huge contract that the Jazz wouldn't be able to match. But if you're paying a non-shooting center $35 million a year, and I'm throwing out 35 because I'm assuming that's where the number gets too high for the Jazz, then you're tanking your roster, You're not going to win basketball games, and I think a lot of NBA teams realize that. So I'm not necessarily worried about Walker leaving in restricted free agency.
I do think it's interesting that literally every single year and every year for the past couple of years, Walker Kessler's name is always being floated around with the trade to the Lakers.
Lakers specifically, and
Lakers fans really, really want Walker Kessler, and and national writers with all these mock trades always want Walker Kessler to end up with the LA Lakers, and now all of a sudden, the Lakers have a possibility to try to steal him away in free agency.
They are one of the teams with money right now.
They are one of the teams with money, and I do think that if the offer comes in at, let's say, 30-32, I do think the Jazz match it to try to keep Walker Kessler here. I am curious to see what the actual number is for, hey, this is a little too rich for us, and decide to move on.
It's not like the 5 years 140 is the Jazz's final offer. I'm sure that's, that's not how you can negotiate. You don't throw out your highest offer initially. That's not your first offer. Right, so the 5 years, 140, obviously neither of those numbers work in Walker Kessler's favor. 5 years is a long time to be tied up. I'm sure that he would want a shorter contract, probably 3. And the 140, the $28 million per year, he probably wants a little more. So I'm sure the final number is going to be a little closer to 3 years, $90 million, so 30 per year. I'm sure that's where it's going to be around.
That's one of the things that your guy Ben and Tim brought up this week is sign up for a shorter deal. You get a little bit more extra upfront, right, or the per year, and then in 3 years' time you can head to the renegotiation table and figure it out. But I do think that's I think with the way that the Jazz are heading, that might not be the worst move. That might not be the best. That might not be the worst idea to try to keep him here on a shorter deal. And then down the line, figure it out for Walker.
Well, and not just Walker, but they're going to have to make a decision on somebody, whether it's Walker or Keontae or Jaren Jackson Jr. or Larry Markkinen. At least one of those guys is not going to be a Jazz man 3 to 4 years from now, because you simply don't have the money to pay all of them.
And I think right now, because of the injury history and because of essentially being a non-all-star player at this point in your career, the sample size isn't there to justify a long-term deal, if that makes sense.
He's had, his rookie year was really good.
Right.
Second year was terrible.
The slump, yeah.
Third year was awesome, and then he is out his fourth year. So we'll see. And, I think that's a good point, too. Prove it. Prove it to us.
You have 3 years to prove it, man. If that's the case, right? If that's the case, you'll have 3 years to go out and prove it. And then again, you head back to the negotiation tables in 3 years' time. But I think right now, Walker Kessler still has a lot to prove at the NBA level.
And you know what? That's a similar conversation to Keontae George. And in the same ESPN article, they're talking about how the Jazz are not expected to extend Keontae George this summer, which it's a similar thing. I mean, his first 2 years in the NBA were very up and down. Had a breakout his third year. He only played 50-something games. And again, the Jazz were a tanking team. So how seriously do you take that third-year breakout for Keontae George? I think the Jazz are very comfortable and right to do so in saying, hey, you know what? We loved what you saw. We loved what we saw from you last year, but let's prove that wasn't a fluke. Let's prove that you're a legit guy. And you know what? If you go out and do that, we are more than happy to pay you what you're worth.
Right.
Because, if you pay him too early and he turns out to not be a guy, again, you have to make every single move with a razor-thin margin right now if you're the Utah Jazz, because that's just where you're at.
For as awesome as Keontae George season was this season, and don't get me wrong, it was absolutely fun to watch, and it was absolutely fun to see him grow. A year ago, we were sitting in these chairs talking about how maybe his best role was a sixth man. And maybe
or
his
on a
best
different
role
team.
Was coming off the bench. And so I think in the case of Keontae George, it would be nice to see some consistency, have whatever happened this past season translate into this next season. If he continued to perform at the way that he was performing this season, obviously that conversation changes, but I think consistency is the key this year for Keontae George, right? Can you continue to build on what we saw from Keontae this past season? And I think that's what the Jazz front office is ultimately waiting for as well.
Shout out to Parker producing right now the show. He put a poll up on Twitter. Go vote on X at KSL Sports Zone. Or you can use the voicemail feature on the KSL Sports app. On the lower left corner, there's a little button that says voicemail. You can send in a little audio clip, and we'd love to play it on the show. But got this poll up on social media. The big day is right around the corner. This Tuesday, the Utah Jazz will be drafting number 2 overall. Who should they take? Let us know. We'll keep you updated on the results throughout the rest of the show. And then final segment as we're wrapping up, we'll see who the Jazz fans want to see in a jersey. Right now, AJ Dybantsa leads 43%. Darryn Peterson and Cam Boozer are tied at 28% each.
Yeah.
Nobody's voted for other. No Darius Acuff fans out there.
No Caleb Wilson.
No Caleb Wilson fans out there.
Which, funny enough, you mentioned Darius Acuff, and I thought the reports
Perk?
of the Jazz... Was it Perk?
It was Perk.
Was it Perk who did it? Perk, what are you doing, man? I thought it was funny that the other reports that they're coming out this week of the Jazz trading down for Darius Acuff and essentially going out of the what I think would be top 5 to try to get Darius Acuff.
Yeah. Well, anything Perk says is ridiculous, so that fit right in.
Yeah, that's right about the avenue. Well, I initially didn't know it was put out by Perk, but now that you mentioned Perk, I'm like, okay, that
makes sense, right?
That makes more sense.
Well, because he did work out with the Jazz, but the Jazz worked out a lot of players that are not in that we wouldn't think are in conversation for this pick at number 2. The Jazz worked out a lot of these guards, right? Darius Acuff, Mikael Brown.
As you should, though, right?
Right.
It's not
due diligence.
It's your due diligence.
Because maybe those guys become free agents down the road, and the Jazz want to try and bring them here.
I would be more concerned if the Jazz didn't bring in Acuff for a workout.
Yeah, if you have the number 2 overall pick, what are you going to do? Just bring in 2 players for a workout and that's it?
That's silly.
Maybe 3?
Yeah, that's silly.
You're able to do it. Why not?
Bring in as much as you can.
Yeah.
Why not?
If they want to come.
Absolutely.
If they don't cancel.
Oh, Darryn.
So let's go there, because speaking of Darryn, I do want to talk about this player who I think is probably the most likely player that the Jazz select. I mean, at least just from the perspective of Washington probably goes AJ Dybantsa, and then Darryn Peterson still has that ceiling of a top 5 player in the NBA. I think it was Zach Lowe, or maybe it was Gavoni. I was just watching a clip. Somebody saying that, Darryn Peterson is a 6'6" Damian Lillard. He's going to come in. He's going to be one of the best shooters in the NBA, but he's got these red flags that are going to maybe keep him from being the number 1 overall pick. So would you feel comfortable if the Jazz take him? Do you think he can hit that ceiling? Because I'm worried about, and a lot of people are worried about the bust potential. I feel like out of the top 3 or 4 prospects, he's got the highest probability to not work out because of what we saw at Kansas? Or are you not worried about that?
I don't think I'm worried about that as much as I was maybe a month ago. And I think I have to credit that to the comments that Austin Ainge made when it came to the medical reports. I thought Ben did a fantastic job asking him more insight into how the medical reports work when it comes to the draft, and essentially him giving insight of having their own personal doctors look into everybody, and he gave a lot of really great information about how that process works. And I think after hearing essentially the due diligence that the Jazz are doing, it makes me less concerned about the cramping issues and his weird year that he had at Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and this is one of the talking points that we've had as far as Darryn Peterson goes, and really any of these three rookies, right? Because there's the discourse of who's going to start and who's going to move to the bench. You know, your starting five right now is Keontae George, Ace Bailey, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Walker Kessler, presumably. Mm-hmm. So whoever they pick is going to take one of those guys' spots, and somebody's going to have to come off the bench, or maybe the rookie comes off the bench. We know the Jazz are going to make a push for the playoffs next year. We also know that the Jazz have a really good roster. That's a really good starting five. And what I'm trying to say is
there's a lot of talent there.
There's a lot of talent there, and they're not relying on this number 2 overall pick to come in and hit right away in order to make the playoffs.
And that's a great thing.
Right.
And that is a really great thing. What happened with Ace Bailey this year?
Slow played him,
and he grew into the season, and he ended the season really strong. And I think you can try to find a way to have that same luxury with your number 2 overall pick this heading into next season. This idea that whoever goes number 2 and whoever the Jazz pick needs to automatically be a starter, I think goes against everything Will Hardy teaches.
Yes.
Bingo. Go back to the beginning of the season when people were asking about Ace Bailey and his minutes, and some of the rookies the last couple of years, it's always been playtime is earned, not given, from Will Hardy.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, having the idea that whoever you pick at number 2 overall, I think it just goes against everything, the culture that Will Hardy has set up for the Utah Jazz.
Going back to Keontae George, in his second year, they moved Keontae to the bench because Will Hardy wasn't happy with what he was seeing, right?
Yeah.
So he's not afraid to do that. I mean, this is a player that had some really high highs, some really good games for the Jazz, and Will's like, you know what, I'm going to move you to the bench because, I don't know what he was trying to teach him, what lesson, but whatever. Will is more than willing to do that with a player, whether he's a second or third year player or especially a rookie.
Yeah.
You're not given anything on day one, especially with this Jazz team coming up. So when you talk fit, I think Darren's a great fit with the Jazz. I think as far as the top 3 prospects and the top 3 teams, I think Darren's fit with the Jazz is the best fit among those players with the teams. I think he comes in and fills a role that the Jazz need, which is another ball handler and shooter, or another ball handler that can shoot, I guess. And you talk about the ceiling, you talk about the potential, right? I think Darryn Peterson would be a great fit. And then, going into this other stuff of not needing him to contribute right away and how serious is the cramping issue and things like that. I honestly think the Jazz would have the luxury of basically being able to redshirt Darryn Peterson his rookie season as a Jazz fan.
Right.
And I'm not talking, you don't play him at all. I'm just saying, start him out slow. Start him out 15, 20 minutes a game, if that. Slowly ramp him up, because if he can't play a 30-game college season, he's not going to be able to play an 82-game NBA season.
Right. And
take that first year to really get him up to NBA-level conditioning.
That would be one of the luxuries you can have with drafting Darryn Peterson.
The Wizards can't do that.
Right. If you draft Darryn Peterson, the concern is the cramping. The concern is the injuries. The concern is the longevity, right? And if you are able to draft Darryn Peterson and bring him onto this Utah Jazz team, there's no doubt in my mind that Will Hardy will allow him to grow into the NBA. And I think you can answer a lot of questions about longevity, at least in the first year, where he's not expected to be the guy, where he's not expected to be your starter right off the bat, where he's not expected to come in and be the best player on this roster from day one.
Right.
Whereas I think in other situations, maybe in other situations he would be expected to be that right off the get-go.
We had a Washington guy the other day on with Jake and Ben, Washington radio host, and he was talking about how, if the Wizards take Darryn Peterson, they're basically banking on him scoring 20 to 25 points a game as a rookie, which it's he has the ability to do that, but for what, 15 games, 20 games, or maybe 82? I don't know, but if you can take this rookie year for Darryn Peterson and really do it right and build his strength level and his conditioning level and make sure all those soft tissue injuries are taken care of and not a concern for the rest of his NBA career, you're going to be way better off than just throwing him into the deep end and saying, hey, figure it out. We need you to be an all-star right now. And maybe he is, but you run that risk of having him be a bust.
Yeah.
Because of the injuries and being held back his entire career. So it's a big decision that, the Wizards are going to be the first team making that decision. And then depending on where they go, the Jazz might be having to make that same decision of, is he worth it? And if he is worth it, how do we play it out?
And I think with Darryn Peterson, right, just looking at his ability to make elite shots, the shot making automatically make him a super interesting prospect. His ability to drive and finish down low, his ability to defend, right? I think there's a lot of two-way potential there where Darryn Peterson can be a really great defender in the NBA as well. For me, I think with the way the roster is now, right, where you want to keep Walker Kessler, where you want to keep Jaren Jackson Jr., where you want to keep Lowry and have the big three essentially, in the front court, then I think Darryn Peterson slots into a hole next to Keontae George.
Right.
And that would be amazing for the Jazz next, heading into the next season and down the line, where they want to have a championship window.
Yeah. And you still have Ace Bailey.
And you have Ace Bailey to throw in there as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's going to be exciting. And not to say that, AJ wouldn't also be a phenomenal pick. And we're kind of running out of time this segment. We didn't have time to get into AJ as well. We'll talk to Chandler Holt about him because as we talked about in the first segment, a lot of smoke online, a lot of rumors, a lot of chatter that all of a sudden it looks like maybe Darryn Peterson is going to go number one. And there's a very real chance that the Jazz could have AJ Dybantsa. So after what seemed like a pipe dream for the first couple weeks after the lottery, it's shaping up like it could be very real that AJ Dybantsa is a Jazz man.
Yeah.
And that would be amazing as well because he is another great player.
I think for AJ, he's got some really great tools to be a fantastic wing. And I think that there is potential there for AJ to be a top 15 NBA player down the line. But we'll see if he's available. I think if Darryn Peterson goes 1 overall for the Washington Wizards, I think the Jazz have a really interesting pick at number 2 with AJ versus Cam.
You think they'd lean Cam?
I think they'd lean AJ.
You think
I
they'd
would
lean
lean
AJ?
I would lean AJ. I should say that. I would lean AJ.
I mean, he's everything you want as far as length and athleticism. And there are many NBA front offices that prioritize that when it comes to the players and archetypes that they draft, length and athleticism. And not to mention, why did they trade for Jaren Jackson Jr.? Because that puts Lowry at the 3, Tripp at the 4, Walker Kessler at the 5. Length and athleticism. You add AJ Dybantsa at the 2. Oof. My goodness.
Oof.
Imagine, if they all stood side by side and stretched their arms out, they could probably go the entire length of the court, just the starting 5.
Yeah.
It would be this is some homework I might need to do. It would be the longest starting 5 in the NBA. I know that. Like, as far as wingspans go, if you added up all the wingspans, there's no way there's another starting 5 in the NBA that would have longer wingspans.
I think I would have to agree. I hope we got to do that. We got to go through and we got to add it up because I am actually now curious to see if that were to be true.
It has to be.
Yeah, I think it has to be though.
So yeah, AJ just bringing in his length, not to mention his first step quickness and his athleticism and his, superpower right now, which is draining the mid ranges, which who's the back-to-back MVP? SGA. And what's his superpower? Killing it from the mid-range.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not dead.
The mid-range is not dead.
No.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander has proven that.
And if you can do it consistently, the way Shea does, the way AJ does, you're unstoppable. Not to mention, AJ also gets the free throw line. He gets the rim. And his three-point shot, a lot of people are concerned about it. I'm not. It's just fine.
Absolutely.
It's just fine. Let's take a break. Coming up next, we will take a break from talking draft. There was some big news in the college football world. Brendan Sorsby and Texas Tech have parted ways. He is not going to be suiting up for the Red Raiders. We will hit that next. No technical fouls this week. It's kind of going to be our technical foul. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that next. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
That sound could mean a lot of things. And when something's going wrong at home, the hardest part can be figuring out what the problem actually is. At Thumbtack, you can upload a voice message or a photo, and our AI-powered search will help diagnose your project. Plus, the pros we know have over 14 million five-star reviews, so you can hire with confidence. Thumbtack, we know homes. Hire the right pro today.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
What is that?
Yeah, it's a World Cup holder.
Like the soccer tournament World Cup?
Holder. For the world. Fits every car, holds every cup.
It has a Carvana logo?
Yeah, Carvana made it. They buy and sell cars, so they made a car cup holder. So, got any good cups lately?
I used to, just couldn't figure out where in the world to put them.
The World Cup holder, brought to you by Carvana, proud sponsors of the World Cup holder.
Sign up today to win yours at cup-holder2026.com. Not authorized or endorsed by FIFA. Not a real product. For parody and fair use purposes only.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, thank you for tuning in, making us a part of your Saturday morning. Got the World Cup about to start their first match of the day. I missed the teams. What teams are these?
It'll be Netherlands taking on Sweden.
I saw the guy in the crowd with the crazy hair from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Did you see that? It's all spiked up.
Yes, they have a lot of the passion, man. The Netherlands for this game is insane. I
had a lot of fun with them.
I love it. Watching the videos of them in Dallas, outside of Jerry's World, pump it up, fire it up last week was awesome. You have some videos of them in Houston this week. Love the passion that the Dutch bring.
Speaking of passion, how's that transition?
Hey, there you go.
Texas Tech was very passionate about bringing Brendan Sorsby back.
Yeah.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Was it that bad?
It was good. Don't listen to Parker.
I'm sorry.
Don't listen to Parker.
Looked like Brendan Sorsby was actually going to suit up for Texas Tech, right? He had the injunction granted to him. Everybody was lawyering up. Big 12 was threatening to potentially, I guess, cancel games.
Yeah.
And Texas's attorney general came out and said, if you do that, we'll sue. And then Oklahoma's attorney general stepped out and said, sue us. See what happens.
Do it.
And then Utah's attorney general and Spencer Cox, the gov, stepped in and said, yeah, we got our guys.
Well, and then the Big 12 got together and filed a lawsuit.
And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. It seemed like, because the day after is when you get the announcement that Texas Tech and Brendan Sorsby were parting ways. After over a week of defending this drama, this story that had the entire world united and up in arms, there was a common enemy in the college football world, and that was Texas Tech. And now it was all over nothing.
Yeah, I've never seen the world come together for a cause.
Not like that.
The way that they did for Texas Tech. And I mean, rightfully so. We talked about it last week. There's a line you don't cross when it comes to gambling inside your sport, gambling on games that you were a part of, games that you essentially have inside information to. And of course, the other legal ramifications of this, right, where they were talking about him betting while he wasn't of the age to bet, and all the other stuff that went along with it. And so I'm glad, ultimately, I'm glad that everybody came to the right decision, and that is Brendan Sorsby can't play college football.
I just think it's funny that Texas Tech changed their minds after everything that they were standing on. And you saw Cody Campbell going out on all the podcasts and basically saying that the only reason people care is because it's Texas Tech and everybody's scared of Texas Tech, and that's why
he changed his tune real quick after the lawsuit.
Right, and then but then they had the Texas Tech's athletic department release that 22-minute video. 22 minutes of sitting there and defending this somehow.
Yep.
And then they changed their minds. And you mentioned that Cody Campbell had some sound that you wanted to play.
Yes. Cody Campbell essentially goes on another podcast after this whole situation goes down, and he talks about why Texas Tech and Brendan Sorsby decided to part ways.
Where it ended is basically that we more or less ran out of time. He had to make a choice on whether he was going to stay in college or try to stay in college or go in the NFL supplementary draft, which is a very unusual thing that's done. But the deadline for that is June the 22nd. And with all the different legal challenges that were going on from the Big 12, potentially from other places, there was no way to know with certainty that he was going to be eligible or that there weren't going to be additional sanctions placed on Texas Tech or anything like that. We had to make the decision that went to talk to Brendan and said, look, it's probably not the best thing for you because you'd be taking some risks that you might not end up being able to play. It's not fair to your teammates, because, games that they're playing or their postseason could be threatened if you were to play. It may not be good for the university. And so, that was a tough thing, because he really, truly wanted to play. And like I said, he is a really good kid.
He's such a good kid, man. I just feel so bad for him. Such a good kid. We were trying to help him out. That's the only reason we were doing this, man. We were trying to help him out. He's got issues. The best thing for him would have been suiting up on Saturdays, making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Poor kid.
Millions of dollars that would probably gone right back into the
Oh, Alex, that's pretty rough.
That's pretty rough. That's pretty rough.
He went to treatment.
He did go to treatment.
He's better now.
We'll see.
So they're saying it was the deadline of the supplemental draft. That's why they changed their mind.
Yes, and because again of the Big 12 lawsuit that was imminent, they didn't know whether or not the eligibility would stand for Brendan Sorsby. They didn't know whether or not there would be additional sanctions if Brendan Sorsby actually took the field, and so they felt it was in their best interest to part ways.
This is funny coming from Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports. This article came out this morning. Big 12 lawsuit against Texas Tech over Brendan Sorsby has not yet been dismissed.
Yes.
This is the headline. This is the opening line of the article. Quarterback Brendan Sorsby is gone from Texas Tech, but not forgotten by the Big 12. Via Heather Dinich of ESPN, the conference has not yet dismissed its lawsuit against Texas Tech. The federal complaint filed on Monday prompted Texas Tech to pull the plug on the Sorsby experiment. Later that same day, the school gave Sorsby more than a nudge to enter the NFL supplemental draft.
And you know what? I think that ultimately that might be a good thing. Because
which part?
Them continuing on with this lawsuit, despite Brendan Sorsby technically now not being a part of that Red Raiders team. Because ultimately, if he just goes into the supplemental draft and his lawsuit is now pulled, you don't set the precedent. There is no precedent set. Everybody just kind of moved on, right? If this lawsuit continues, though, you can hopefully potentially have a precedent set for the future where we don't have to worry about this situation anymore. Right? Let's say a player down the line, a similar situation happens, and now you're in the same boat. You're in the same situation of we're going to go get an injunction, we're going to go do this, we're going to make sure that he still has eligibility, etc. Whereas if this lawsuit stands and the Big 12 continues to go through it, you can have some sort of precedent set to where you don't have to worry. This doesn't have to be a big issue in the future. Make the lines clear, make the lines visible, draw the line and say this is the line you can't cross, and then you don't have to worry about this in the future. Hopefully.
Mess around and find out.
Hopefully. Knock on some wood. Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Mess around and find out.
That's
if
the
you're
message.
Going to pull this type of crap and turn the entire college football world against a school in our conference, credit to Brett Yormark and credit to the rest of the, decision makers for these schools. it seemed like this one thing really banded the Big 12 together.
Yes.
Everybody was against Texas Tech, not just in college football, but in the Big 12 specifically. There were no schools that sided with Tech and said, you know what, let them do it. Everybody was like, hey, that's a big no-no.
Right.
And so it's giving the Big 12 something that they needed as far as banding together as a conference, because you hear all the time about the ACC doing things together as a conference, the Big 10 doing things together, the SEC doing things as a conference, and the commissioner sticking up for their conference. And this was kind of the first time that Brett Yormark has done this with this new look Big 12. They lost Texas, they lost Oklahoma. What's the future going to look like going forward? At least that these guys, they have something to stick together for.
I'm sure there'll be some relationship repairing that needs to be done with Texas Tech and
kick them out.
And the people, the decision makers at Texas Tech. But I'm sure, again, right, if this lawsuit goes through, then college football, college sports will be in a better spot because of it. Because I think you have some precedent set.
Chandler Holt, Utah Jazz insider for KSLSports.com, joins us next. What are the Jazz going to do with the number 2 overall pick? Stick with us. That's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. The NBA Draft is coming up on Tuesday night. The Utah Jazz hold the number 2 pick. We still have no idea what they are going to do with it. We know that they have a lot of available options to them. And joining us to talk about it, he is a Utah Jazz insider and beat writer for KSL Sports. It's Chandler Holt. What's up, Chandler?
Hey, guys. Appreciate the invite. Draft is right around the corner. I'm excited.
I think we're all excited, Chandler. And we'll take it back to earlier this week, right when the reports come out that Darryn Peterson cancels his workouts with the Utah Jazz. His camp is confident that they're going number 1. What are Jazz fans supposed to make of having the thought of Darryn Peterson potentially being drafted by the Jazz at number 2 to then all of a sudden saying, oh, maybe he goes number 1 and maybe AJ Dybantsa is available for them at number 2?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because for weeks and probably months at this point, it was the odds-on favorite, and all the discussion was around AJ Dybantsa going with the number 1 pick, no matter who had that pick. And then, it sort of just flips the script late, and then you can also see ESPN's Jeremy Woo switches Peterson to number 1 on his board. So there's a lot of smoke right now with Peterson going number 1, which is kind of funny timing because, as you mentioned, a lot of Jazz fans sort of came around to Peterson and it sort of became the favorite, both for all the stuff he's good at and also his fit with the roster as it stands right now. But I will just say, no matter who the pick is, the Jazz are bringing in their best prospect in decades and decades, and the team's in a really good spot. And I'm excited to see who the pick is and how they fit in year 1.
Seems to me, Chandler, like the Wizards are trying to dangle this pick in front of the Jazz, obviously. All the smoke screen about AJ Dybantsa and, hey, maybe we're just going to take AJ. And Jazz, if you want your guy, you're a hometown hero, you got to trade up for him. And then maybe now the truth is coming out that really they just want Darryn Peterson and that AJ stuff is a smoke. Do you get the sense that the Jazz are fine with sitting at 2 and taking who's left instead of making that trade up to 1?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think that this draft is so even among not only just the top two, but the top three guys that it honestly might, I don't want to say malpractice, but it definitely would be questionable to add any assets when you could get maybe the better player than who goes one slot ahead of you. And that goes for the Memphis Grizzlies as well, who sit at number 3. Yeah, and I agree with you. There have been so many smokescreens as of late, and I actually mentioned this on the Jazz Notes podcast. It's kind of funny that the only thing we haven't really heard about is Cam Boozer going number 1 overall, even though this draft, as I mentioned, has been slated as like 3 number 1 picks in this draft. So there's smoke for everything except for that, and maybe that means something. In all likelihood, it probably doesn't. But we've reached sort of this point in the cycle where everything has been thrown at the wall, and we're just seeing what sticks, when in reality, we'll just have to wait till Tuesday.
You mentioned Cam Boozer, and I guess with the 3 of them, from what you've been able to see, Chandler, and from what you've been able to gather, out of the 3 of them, out of AJ, out of Cam, out of Darryn Peterson, I guess which one is in your eyes, is the best prospect for the Utah Jazz at number 2?
I would say who I would also just say is the best prospect in the class to me would be AJ Dybantsa. Like I mentioned, all 3 of these guys, they're on such an even playing field, even though all of them are so different in their play style and sort of what they're strongest at. But just with AJ Dybantsa, he's 6'9" and he has a 42-inch vertical. Like, you can teach these guys to maybe improve some of their skills on the court, but you can't teach the other guys necessarily to jump that high or be that tall. But I do think the fit with Darryn Peterson it's picture perfect. Like, he would slide into that 2 slot next to Keontae George. He provides shooting. I think apparently everything with the cramps is fine. That's sort of the reports that have been coming out from NBA front offices, that there's really nothing concerning about that. So hopefully you can see him sort of get back to the athleticism that you saw back at Prolific Prep. And then Cam Boozer is just like the smartest player in the draft, and he just makes the right play every single time on offense. And I trust that he can come around as a defender. He is a bit heavy-footed, so maybe not as much on the perimeter, but he's also super strong. So, yeah, I just don't think you can really go wrong, and the Jazz are in an awesome position to just take whoever they like the most.
What is the expectation, I guess, for this rookie? Day one, kind of, but more so throughout his rookie year. Do you think that there are expectations to come in and contribute right away as a starter, no matter who it is? Or maybe it does depend on who they draft, right? You mentioned Darryn Peterson, as far as this roster, fits in really well. Do you think there's going to be a big role day one, or do you think that the Jazz kind of have the luxury of rolling with this presumed starting 5 and kind of slow playing the rookie as they come along?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And as of right now, I would assume that at least for game 1 of 82, the rookie would be coming off of the bench. Will Hardy preaches a meritocracy, so I would assume that Ace Bailey, who started around 60 games last year, would also get the start at the 2 to start the season. But I wouldn't be surprised if that rookie ends up in the starting lineup midway or near the end of the season. And I don't think there are a lot of expectations. I do think you want to see progression. Like, I think that'll be the main thing for the rookie, is just be better than you were yesterday every single day. And also, I do think it will change a little bit based on who the player is. Like, if the Jazz draft Cam Boozer, you have Jaren Jackson, Walker Kessler, the entire front court ahead of you for the most part. So maybe you just don't really need to produce as much, and you really can just focus on getting better. But for Darryn Peterson, I think Darryn Peterson of the 3 is most likely to maybe sneak into that starting lineup at some point during the season. But yeah, it's interesting because in previous years, you think about Keontae George and Cody Williams, those guys were just thrown into the fire as rookies. And this rookie will have the opportunity to, 1, come into a winning environment, and 2, sort of work through all of the rookie problems in a winning environment.
So Wednesday night, late in the night, I get the notification that pops up on my phone that Trae Young has declined his player option with the Washington Wizards, and it's conveniently timed with all this noise about Darryn Peterson potentially going number 1 to the Washington Wizards. I guess, how much should we really be reading into that? How much should we really be looking into that and saying, oh, maybe Darryn Peterson is the number 1 overall pick, and maybe AJ Dybantsa and Cam Boozer will be available for the Utah Jazz at number 2?
Yeah, I quote tweeted that post when it came out from ESPN, and I was like, Darryn Peterson, welcome to DC. But in reality, I don't think it means much. I don't think it means much of anything. I do think that Trae Young will just work to sort of restructure his contract, a longer-term deal with the Wizards. But yeah, I agree. It is interesting timing with all of this. Like, it absolutely could have waited until after the draft. But no, I do expect him to come back. It is the interesting part of this, though, is that now, since Trae Young is a free agent, he can listen to other teams, and I think the Miami Heat have been one of the teams interested in him. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't think it really means much of anything for the draft, as it shouldn't. For the Jazz, for the Wizards, for everybody sort of in that top four, you just need to take the best player on your board.
The Darryn Peterson discourse is so crazy because this is a guy that a year ago, I mean, maybe even 6 months ago, was the presumed number one pick in this draft. But then you see all the headache at Kansas with the cramping and the alleged creatine issues or whatever it is, and he's not able to play a full season, and he's pulling himself out of games. You mentioned that he fits the best with this Jazz roster, and he'd probably be able to find a starting spot relatively quickly because he does have valuable tools that the Jazz could use next season. Do you think that the Jazz would want to push that if they do draft Darryn Peterson, or how do you think they would play his medical history, I guess, and his medical issues as far as playing him a ton until they're comfortable with having him on the court for an 82-game season?
Yeah, and it's going back to talking about how, like, in previous years, Jazz rookies were just thrown into the fire because there wasn't a lot on the line. I think the good thing is if it is Darryn Peterson medicals, or I don't think Caleb Wilson is in this discussion, but say he comes up and he's just not strong enough, not really ready for the NBA physicality yet. In any of these situations, the Jazz don't have to play their rookie 30-plus minutes a game. Like, if you're the Grizzlies, assuming, of course, Ja Morant gets traded, if you get Cam Boozer, you can play him 30 to 40 minutes a night with no problem because that's, like, your guy. That's the guy that you're trying to develop, and hopefully he'll be your best player on a contending team soon. But yeah, the Jazz don't really need that. They have so many quality players on their roster. And I think that you will go in, maybe start them at 20 minutes, 25 minutes a night coming off the bench. And then if there are any injury things, you don't need to force it with the rookie. You can take it slow. You can sit him for a night. You could lower his minutes. I think that's sort of a good thing that the Jazz have in their back pocket, that they can sort of slow play the rookie. Similar, honestly, to kind of how Ace Bailey was last year. The Jazz were very calculated with how they brought Ace Bailey along, but he was also a very important part of the rotation. Not saying the rookie won't be, but he doesn't have to be, at least from early on in the season, and that's something Will Hardy can experiment with.
So, I mean, we're spending a lot of time talking about Darryn Peterson, but as we mentioned with all the smokescreen stuff, there is a very real chance that A.J. Dybantsa falls to the Jazz. And, of course, we know him locally. He went to BYU. We feel like out of the top three prospects, we know him the best. But does it really feel like he is the top prospect in this draft, or has the highest ceiling maybe is something that you're seeing thrown around? Like, do the Jazz feel that way as well?
I wish I knew what the Jazz's board looked like. Honestly, I could see it going. I could see it going anywhere. I could see any of the top three players being number one on the Jazz's board, just because, like I said, all of them are so good in their own way, and it just really comes down to what each front office prioritizes. And I feel like we don't really know what that is for Washington and Utah. It's been thrown around that Memphis is very analytically driven, so I think it might be safe to assume that Cam Boozer would be on the top of their board regardless. But yeah, talking about AJ. Since all of these guys are so close, kind of like I mentioned earlier, I think it really just comes down to the physical and athletic tools, which I think that by far A.J. Dybantsa has the best of when compared to the other top three guys. Darryn Peterson measured well at the combine. I think he had like around a 38 or 37.5-inch vertical, which is solid. But then A.J. Dybantsa is just 4 inches taller and jumps 5 inches higher. Like, it's kind of ridiculous how athletic A.J. Dybantsa is. But that being said, I think Darryn Peterson projects as a much better shooter in the NBA. He's a better defender right now. And it's just like a lot of this process for front offices comes down to projecting, and maybe Washington and Utah see two different players as being the better player in a few years.
One of the bigger storylines, too, for the Utah Jazz heading into this NBA draft is, of course, the lingering decision of Walker Kessler. There's the reports of the 5-year around the ballpark number of $140 million. I guess I'm curious where the Walker Kessler situation will end up, and do the Jazz want this Walker Kessler situation wrapped up before they have to go and make that decision of who they want to take at the number 2?
So, again, similar to the Trae Young thing with the Wizards, I don't think that the Walker Kessler situation plays much of any impact on the draft. I think you take the best player available. And if you think that's Cam Boozer, yes, the fit isn't perfect, but you make it work. But regarding the contract stuff, I personally think $28 million is pretty fair for Walker Kessler. It makes him one of the 3 highest paid non-All-Star centers in the NBA. I do imagine the Jazz want to get this wrapped up as soon as possible because I feel like, at least when it comes to free agency, as soon as you check that box, you can move on to Yusuf Nurkic, Kevin Love, or maybe bringing in an outsider in free agency. So I do think they want to get it done. And also I do think that the entire situation and sort of the reports coming out of the situation of what Walker's camp was asking for, I think the reporting on it was kind of lackluster, and I think it was blown out of proportion in a lot of ways. I think that restricted free agency is just always a messy situation. And, for example, the Jazz offered reportedly in the $28 million a year range for Walker Kessler, and then the rumors started swirling that his camp asked for $40 million a year. I don't think they really think he's a $40 million a year player, which would make him a top 5 paid center in the NBA. I think that it's just a negotiation tactic. You get offered 28, you ask for 40, and they come up to 32. I think it was as simple as that, and I think it's both Walker and his camp's job to get as much money as possible. I expect it to be to come to a conclusion sooner rather than later.
Is there a number that you think that the Jazz would look at and say, hey, maybe that's a little bit too rich and decide to move on without Walker Kessler?
It's really tough to say. I think that maybe the worst case scenario, if you want to call it that, would be a sign and trade. Just because if you think about it, for years there's been reports that the Lakers, the Wizards, the Pacers, all these teams have reached out trying to trade for Walker Kessler. And then if you pass up on all those just to let him walk in free agency, that's sort of bad business. I think worst case scenario is a sign and trade, but even then I think that is unlikely. In terms of a number, I would say maybe around 35 would be my guess. I'm not entirely sure, but I just think that if Keontae posts a similar season to what he did last year, he'll also be in that 35 to 40 range. And then snap with your fingers, you're a second apron team without really any postseason experience. So,
got to figure it out quick. Chandler, thank you so much for your time, man. I know next week is going to be busy for you, but it's also such an exciting time to be covering this team.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate the invite, guys.
Thanks, Chandler.
There you go. That is Chandler Holt, Utah Jazz insider for KSLSports.com. Great stuff as always. Getting you ready for the draft. I think it's safe to say that the Jazz have a lot of good options available to them right now.
Yes. Obviously, you enjoy watching and reading the conversations online of whether it's going to be AJ, whether it's going to be Darryn, whether it's going to be Cam Boozer. And I think that there is a lot of upside and a lot of pluses on some of these guys. And I think that there's also some things that these guys can work on. I think ultimately, though, as Chandler mentioned, I think that, I think the feeling around the state of Utah right now for whoever the Jazz decide to pick and whoever the Jazz do decide to take is I think that with you being at the number 2 spot, you have a really, really great chance of picking somebody who can be a franchise-altering player. And I think that's one of the perks of being in the spot that you're in right now for the Utah Jazz in this draft specifically.
One thing that's really been weird to me about this draft cycle is everybody being so concerned about AJ Dybantsa's defense. And I get that the numbers weren't there at BYU, right? And people point to the blocks, like, how did you only block 12 shots all year when you're so long? I mean, if you watch the games, it's because they clearly didn't care about utilizing AJ. It's not that they didn't care about utilizing AJ Dybantsa on defense. It's that things just went down the drain so quickly for BYU in the sense of Richie Saunders getting hurt and the offense not having a ton of juice. They were asking AJ to do so much on offense that it seems like they didn't care as much about his defensive prowess. When you're that long and that athletic, I'm not worried about the defense at all. And I'd bring that up just because, and not to say Chandler did. He mentioned that Darryn Peterson is a better defender. He had better numbers. I'm not worried about AJ Dybantsa's defense at all. I think he's going to come in and he has the tools to be a great defender, and I think he will be.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree. I'm not necessarily at the spot where I would be concerned about AJ Dybantsa's defense. And we talked about this a little bit last week, right? I think this Jazz team as a whole just needs to improve, and the
Everybody
defensively,
will.
the defensively as a whole. And I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing to bring in somebody in that needs to maybe work on their defensive numbers just a little bit at the same time that you're trying to improve a Utah Jazz defense. Kind of bring them along at the same time that you're bringing along a guy like Keontae George, a guy like Ace Bailey. And I think that can work out really well in the future for you down the line, as far as building that defensive chemistry that I think you'll ultimately need to win an NBA championship.
Exciting times.
Woo!
Exciting
times. We're almost
times.
there, man. We're almost there.
Let me pull up the poll real quick. Oh yeah, getting a ton of votes on here. AJ Dybantsa. The question, by the way, draft is right around the corner. Who do you want the Jazz to take number 2 overall? AJ Dybantsa leads 47%. Darryn Peterson right there at 41%, and then Cam Boozer at 11%. So almost 50-50 between AJ and Darryn.
I like that.
They're going to be picking between one of those two.
I like that. And mostly just because I think I'm at that point right now where I talk myself into Darryn Peterson, and then I talk myself into AJ Dybantsa if AJ Dybantsa is available there. And I'm also kind of at that point where I'm 50-50 and walking it back and forth and back and forth.
That's the funny part about what's happened, though, is, the Jazz get number 2 in the lottery. So you're like, oh, AJ's going to go 1. We have to talk ourselves into Darryn Peterson over these last 2 months. And then now all of a sudden it's like, wait, there's a real chance that the Jazz might get AJ. So it's like kind of having to talk yourself into AJ again.
Right.
But not talking yourself because, a week ago you thought he was going number 1. So, the Jazz are getting a really good player. And Cam Boozer only at 11% is a little crazy too. I think it should be a little more even.
I thought that there would have been more there for Cam Boozer, but
not a lot of Boozer fans.
Not a lot of Boozer fans.
All right.
And that's okay.
The World Cup is underway. Netherlands up 2-0 over Sweden. The second goal was nice. I missed the first one.
Second goal was nice.
Second goal was nice. But Team USA is advancing. They have locked up a spot. We're going to talk about the World Cup a little bit next and a little bit more in 5 minutes of. So stick with us. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The grill is shot. The chairs are held together by optimism. And what happened to the rug? Sounds like your outdoor setup is not ready for patio season. Fix it all with Wayfair. Shop Wayfair for grills, rugs, furniture, and more. With 20 million 5-star reviews, room of choice delivery, and expert setup on qualifying orders, it's never been easier to do more for less. Get 10% off your first eligible purchase. Hurry to wayfair.com or download the app now.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
We all have routines. I'm Jabron, and with diabetes, mine was finger sticks. Sometimes I skip them because they hurt. The Freestyle Libre 3CGM changed that. It gives me glucose insights without finger sticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
Finger sticks are required if your glucose alarms or readings do not match symptoms, or when you see check blood glucose symbol for the first 12 hours. The views expressed should not be used for medical diagnosis or treatment as a substitute for professional medical advice. Individual circumstances may vary. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, thank you for tuning in, making us a part of your Saturday morning. It's time for 5 minutes of. Running out of time on the show. Still got a lot to talk about, so we're going to rapid fire run through some of these things. The New York Knicks won the NBA Finals a week ago. It feels like it was forever ago. But they had the parade on Thursday.
Yes.
Or Wednesday. Thursday morning?
Thursday morning.
That sounds right.
Thursday morning.
Fun times.
Good times. Congratulations to the New York Knicks. I think ultimately, it's so funny and interesting how many times the Spurs led in those games and those leads that they would just continuously give up and then showing their age a little bit. But the New York Knicks are NBA champs.
Well, Victor Wembanyama is washed, and he's never going back to the NBA Finals again. He's a baby.
I mean, it's very well possible.
He's a giant 7'6" baby.
Yes, him immediately walking into the locker room after he puts up a 3, right?
Yeah.
Tries to score the bucket to tie it up or win the thing. I can't remember exactly what it was. Puts it up. Time runs out, and then he immediately just heads into the locker room and.
He made himself a lot of new haters over this playoff run, including me.
I would agree. Again, trying to be the villain, trying to be a villainous NBA guy.
Yeah,
which did it. I don't know quickly. For Victor Wembanyama, similar to what we saw, I think from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Oklahoma City Thunder, is everybody loved Shai when it was happening, right? Everybody loved Shai when the Thunder were on the rise, and then all of a sudden, there's the flopping, and then there's the MVPs, and everybody doesn't like Shai, and now you have the actions of Victor Wembanyama. The only difference is, I guess, Victor Wembanyama doesn't have the accolades that Shai does to back the talk.
He's supposed to be there, but he hasn't won anything yet.
Right.
I mean, unanimous Defensive Player of the Year, sure, but not an MVP, not an NBA champion. Speaking of NBA champions, though, had a lot of fun watching the parade. We got to talk about this. Tyler Kolek, bench player for the New York Knicks, didn't really do much throughout the playoffs. First off, he went viral after winning. He put out a video. He said, "We got an A on the group project." Like, you know that meme?
Right.
You get an A on the group project, but you didn't do anything?
Yep.
That's Tyler Kolek. Right. But then there's a funny video coming out from the parade. He's walking down the barriers, and, the fans are on one side, and he's walking through. Security goes up and grabs him, like literally grabs him and tries to put him on the other side because they think he's a regular person. They think he's a fan. And he's like, "No, I'm on the team." Bro, what did he said, like, "Bro, I'm on the team." That's so funny.
I probably would have grabbed him and said, when he says I'm on the team, I would be like, "Yeah, prove it."
Prove it what?
Prove it.
Shoot a basketball? What?
Yeah,
How do you prove it?
I don't know. That's what I'm
How
saying.
Do you prove
exactly.
it at the parade?
Exactly. There's no way to tell that this guy was on the team or not.
Okay.
I'm watching the video now.
So you're on the side of the security team?
No. I just think it's funny.
The video is really funny. Because he gets like manhandled.
Yeah. They come in, they huddle him. There's 5 police officers who come up and grab him. And then I think somebody from the team steps in and says, "Don't worry, he's with us." And then they're like, "Oh, okay." And then they back off.
Yeah, he's like high-fiving. He's doing the hop, skip.
Yeah.
That's funny. Shout out Tyler Kolek. NHL Draft also wrapped up. Carolina Hurricanes take it. Down goes Vegas. Vegas announces that they're not going to bring back John Tortorella after 8 regular season games and a playoff run that went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. They ultimately didn't win, but Carolina Hurricanes are your Stanley Cup champions. Any thoughts there?
Congrats to them. I thought Vegas started off the series really hot, and then they really fizzled out at the end. Not being able to at least score one in the closeout game and kind of keep it close and kind of, essentially no showing in the closeout game was a little disappointing, but congrats to the Hurricanes, man.
And speaking of the NHL, for as much time as we spent on the NBA draft, because the Jazz have the number 2 pick, right?
There's another draft happening.
There is another draft next week. The NHL draft is Friday. We are going to have a round table. The draft starts at 5. The Utah Mammoth pick in the teens. I think it's
19, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Much different spot than the Jazz.
Yes. Yeah. It was awesome last year, right, with the Mammoth and their draft and them essentially winning the lottery, but because of their rules, they can only move up 10 spots, and they end up picking, third or fourth or whatever it was. Being that high up in the draft was awesome, but then this year, obviously warranted. They made it to the playoffs. They were improved upon where they were last year. This year, the Mammoth will pick 19th overall.
Yeah, we'll have to see what kind of prospect they get at the 19th pick. Of course, we're going to have Cole Bagley on a lot next week to come on and talk about it. We don't have a lot of hockey draft experts in the area. Everybody watches college basketball. Not a lot of local people watch college hockey.
Cole does.
Cole does.
And he'll let us know who to keep an eye on for this upcoming 2026 NHL Draft.
But yeah, that starts Friday at 5, also local time. We're going to have a round table live from JCW's. Should be a fun show.
Absolutely. The draft shows are always fun.
I do love the draft shows.
Yeah, the draft shows are always fun, whether it's the NBA, whether it's the NHL. The NHL one last year was I remember being extremely sick when it happened. And we were just sitting here chilling, and then I was just coughing up a lung and helping out with the draft coverage.
That's
all I remember from it. Yeah.
World Cup, Netherlands leads 2-0 over Sweden still. But the USA has been kind of the story of the first 2 group games, I guess. A lot of people are taking note of the United States and how complete they feel after winning their first 2 games against the Paraguay, right? And then Australia yesterday. So Team USA, they've punched their tickets.
They have punched their ticket, and then thanks to a Paraguay win against Turkey late last night, they win Group D. So they are the number 1 team in Group D. They'll have they'll have this game coming up on Wednesday, where they'll play Turkey to close out the group stage. But at this point, it doesn't really mean anything. The USA has already kind of wrapped up their top spot, and they get ready for the round of 32, which starts up next week.
Well, and Turkey hasn't won, so they stink anyways.
Yeah, Turkey hasn't won. They've been the disappointment of the group, for sure.
So is this Team USA real, or are they just in a weak group?
Oh, no.
Do you think they're going to make the knockout round and get embarrassed?
They have looked a lot better than I thought they were coming into this World Cup. I had a lot of questions about this squad. I had a lot of questions about the defense. I had a lot of questions about the goalkeeping for the U.S. men's national team. But through the friendlies that they played before the World Cup, through now 2 performances and 2 games into the World Cup, I think a lot of fans should be feeling a lot better about where the U.S. men's national team is. Massive shout out to the fans in Seattle, man. They showed out. The crowd in Seattle yesterday was insane.
The fans have been a really fun storyline for this, as far as, our local fans, obviously. Local, is Americans and people in Mexico and people in Canada showing up to all these games is always cool to see. But then you hear about everybody coming overseas and experiencing American culture or Mexican culture or Canadian culture. You see all the South Koreans partying in Mexico. Delta Airlines had to put out a statement like you can't bring ranch containers in your carry-on.
Yeah, TSA did.
You can't bring ranch containers in their carry-on, for everybody coming over to America and discovering ranch. Like, you're going to love it. Check it in your bag if you're going to bring it home.
Was America right about ranch this entire time?
Of course, yeah. What you mean? You think we were wrong? Why would you ask?
Are you a ranch on pizza guy?
Yeah. A little bit. I don't need it. But if I were to go with the dipping sauce with pizza, it would be ranch or marinara. You don't like it?
Just give me plain, man.
Okay.
No ranch on my pizza.
What were some other funny things? The guy with the Japanese guy getting free chips and salsa at the Mexican restaurant, and he thought that was insane.
There was an interview done by a Dallas news station down there. There was this Japanese guy who was essentially like, I don't really speak English, but the Japanese are going to win the World Cup. Let's go! And then they both were like, they were both yelling at each other like, "Let's go! Let's go!" It was awesome, man. So fun to watch. There's still videos of South Koreans and Mexicans down there in Guadalajara, where the South Koreans have the Mexican jerseys on. They're all partying and celebrating, even though Mexico beat South Korea. Good to see that they're still friends.
All the host countries really playing well. Canada is 1-1, but they really beat the doors off of Qatar yesterday, 6-0, after they tied with Bosnia last week. Mexico, they're 2-0. They beat South Korea, like you said, yesterday, and then earlier they beat South Africa. So none of the host teams have lost in the World Cup yet, at least as far as in the group stage. Yeah. So that's a fun storyline too. And Canada's never been good. I think that was their first win ever in the World Cup.
And they put 6 past Qatar, man. They had a player who is probably one of their best midfielders. He had a really gruesome bad injury.
That was bad. I did see that
in that
live.
game, and so obviously hope for a speed recovery there. Hope that he's going to be, sounds like surgery was successful. It's unfortunate. One of my favorite players, his name's Ismail Kone. One of my favorite players to watch so far for this Canadian national team, and will now have to miss the rest of the World Cup because the World Cup cut short due to this very bad injury, very serious injury.
Not to mention, I mean, all the stars are showing up too. Like Messi had a hat trick. Harry Kane had 2 goals.
Yes. Mbappe had 2.
Mbappe had 2.
Holland had 2.
Yes, Holland. There you go. But you know who hasn't showed up?
Who's that, Christian?
Ronaldo.
Cristiano Ronaldo has not shown up.
Goalless.
Yes. Really, really disappointing performance. Not only from him, man, but I mean just from Portugal as a whole. And I feel like that's been one of the stories of this World Cup, man, is the underdog story. There's been a lot of teams who necessarily weren't supposed to be winning games, weren't favored to win their games, and they've been showing up big. And Congo was one of them. Portugal was supposed to win that game handedly. Portugal was supposed to win that group easily. And Congo showed up, held them to a 1-1 draw. Cristiano Ronaldo did not have a really great game.
Washed.
Yeah.
No, I've been super dialed in. This has been a lot of fun, especially being a host country for something like the World Cup is great. And I'm not a soccer guy. Like I'm not super into soccer. I'll go watch Real games. I have a ton of fun at Real Salt Lake games. I don't follow like the EPL and whatever overseas. I don't really follow the biggest soccer leagues.
Mm-hmm.
But having the World Cup come over and playing in the United States and playing in Mexico and playing in Canada, it really does feel, I feel more of a connection to it. And like I feel obligated, not obligated to watch because I'm doing it for fun, but I feel like I have like a connection to these games, even though I
absolutely,
don't.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of fun.
And again, I think it goes back to seeing those crowds in Seattle yesterday. Seattle's a big, obviously, Seattle, the fans from the Seahawks, right? And you know that how rowdy and how loud that stadium gets. And they brought all that energy now for that U.S. men's national team game yesterday. And it was amazing to see Seattle erupt the way that they did. Also, big shout out to the Fox coverage, essentially giving them the big noon kickoff set up outside the stadium and having everybody kind of convene there and go crazy before the game too. That was super fun to watch.
With Zlatan.
Yeah, with Zlatan on the broadcast.
He's funny.
He wasn't there in Seattle, but still fun to see some old former U.S. men's national team legends kind of show up in Seattle and get the crowd ready for a massive game.
Is goal going to stand or is that interference?
Let's see. Oh, it should stand.
Sweden they just got on the board. They had a free kick and Buddy put it in with the header. I don't know his name. Apologies. But Sweden getting on the board right before the halftime break. Netherlands still leads 2-1.
Oh, offsides.
Oh,
no
offsides. Never mind.
No goal. 2-0.
Nil is what they call it, Alex.
Yeah, sorry.
2-0.
Yeah.
I thought you knew that.
I did know that.
We'll put a bow on this show next. Stick with us. It's a Saturday show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Thumbtack presents Uncertainty Strikes. I was surrounded. The aisle and the options were closing in. There were paint rollers, satin and matte finish, angle brushes, and natural bristles. There were too many choices. What if I never got my living room painted? What if I couldn't figure out what type of paint to use? What if I just used Thumbtack? I can hire a top-rated pro that knows everything about interior paint, easily compare prices, and read reviews. Thumbtack knows homes. Download the app today.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
What is that?
Yeah, it's a World Cup holder.
Like the soccer tournament World Cup?
Holder. For the world. Fits every car, holds every cup.
It has a Carvana logo?
Yeah, Carvana made it. They buy and sell cars, so they made a car cup holder. So, got any good cups lately?
I used to, just couldn't figure out where in the world to put them.
The World Cup holder, brought to you by Carvana, proud sponsors of the World Cup holder.
Sign up today to win yours at cup-holder2026.com. Not authorized or endorsed by FIFA. Not a real product. For parity and fair use purposes only.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles. Last segment, we were talking about the NHL Draft a little bit, talking about how Cole Bagley is on the coverage, of course. He does have an article up on KSLSports.com right now about 5 players the Utah Mammoths should consider with their first-round pick in the 2026 NHL Draft. Again, the Mammoth are picking 19th overall. That draft is next Friday. We're going to have a big old draft roundtable like we always do here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, starting at 5 along with the draft. But Tuesday night, NBA Draft, 6 p.m., what time do you think the Jazz will send their pick in? You think the Wizards are going to take their full clock? And then the Jazz will take their full clock? Sometimes that's what they want. That's what the NBA wants for the TV show, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, even if they do it before, like it'll say at the bottom the pick is in, whatever. And then they'll like do some, they'll continue to do their analysis for like the next 5 minutes. And then finally they get to the podium and announce it. So I'm imagining something in that similar vein is going to happen. We'll see the pick is in notification pop up at the bottom of the screen. They'll continue talking for a good 2 to 5 minutes, and then we'll finally see them get to the podium.
The second round is the night after, Wednesday night. The Jazz do not have a second round pick. I mean, it's always a possibility that they could trade for one, but I don't know why you would trade for a second round pick. I mean, maybe they make some other trade and it involves landing a second-round pick, but they're not going to make a trade just for a second-round pick.
Right.
Unless maybe Richie Saunders falls and the Jazz are like, hey, let's go get Richie, because why not? But you never know.
You never know. And that's one of the fun things about draft night. I'll say this about both the NBA draft coming up here and the NHL draft coming up. You never know what's going to happen. So
buckle up.
And join our coverage. We're going to be wall-to-wall, bringing both the NBA and the NHL draft, and so it should be a fun week, man. I'm excited for mostly to find out who the new Jazzman is going to be, and then, of course, we'll be able to make our predictions and our analysis on how the Jazz will play out and see what you can expect from the number 2 pick.
Well, the best part about our coverage here on the Zone is we get to hear straight from the player every night, every draft night.
That is true. That is true.
The player calls in. The Jazz let that happen. The player calls in. So the last few years we've had, I mean, goodness, I remember 2 years ago when the Jazz made 3 picks in the first round. Even last year they had 2 players. But yeah, getting 3 picks in the first round, and each one of them calls in eventually, and they join the NBA Roundtable show. And same thing with the NHL Draft, of course. We will get to hear from that draft pick as well. So that gives you another incentive to listen to our coverage, because you will get to hear an exclusive, not only is it an exclusive interview, but it is the first time that anybody gets to hear from them as a Jazzman. It's before their presser or anything, and before the Jazz's presser too. So it's going to be awesome, and I can't wait. And whether that's going to be Darryn Peterson or maybe AJ Dybantsa or Cam Boozer, there's going to be so much hype, man. So much hype on Wednesday morning.
And I'm excited to see I'm excited to listen to all the breakdowns from the guys. I'm excited to listen to the post reactions on Wednesday, and so it should be a very fun week here on the station, and it should be very fun to watch all this draft coverage go down.
As far as today's schedule on the KSL Sports Zone, the Salt Lake Bees at home taking on the Tacoma Rainiers. First pitch tonight, 6:35 p.m., 6:20 pregame with Tony Parks, as always. And then tomorrow, last game against Tacoma this series. That game is a 6:05 first pitch and a 5:50 pregame. So go Bees, man. You've been keeping up with the Dirty Sodas?
I tune into the Dirty Sodas every once in a while, absolutely.
I think that's awesome.
Yes. That's one of the fun things about the minor league baseball, right? That's one of the fun things about being in the being able to have an alternative identity, being able to kind of make something, bring something fun for the fans, bring some engagement for the fans. I saw that they had the fry sauce night the other night.
Yeah.
And
I love fry sauce.
Them touting that they have the best fry sauce, and I'm now inclined to go try it. I have not yet to try their fry sauce, and so now I want to go out to the ballpark and try out and make my own opinion to see if it really is the best fry sauce.
That's a pretty bold claim.
It is a pretty bold claim, but they're standing by it, man. They had a whole night dedicated to it, Christian.
So they must be right.
Fry sauce night.
Hopefully they do it again. I gotta go. Stay tuned all week, especially with all this draft stuff, man. Like you said, we're blowing it out. And be sure to tune in Tuesday to the NBA Draft Roundtable Show. That starts at 6 p.m. Right after Jake and Ben. And then the NHL Draft Table Show is going to be Friday at 5 p.m. But, of course, all week we're going to have incredible coverage. I mentioned earlier Austin Ainge is supposed to join the station on Monday, give you a little preview of the draft. So you're going to want to tune in to that. And then we will see what is rolling. One more time before we wrap, though, I got to take a final look at these results from our poll. Parker, the producer, put out a poll on Twitter. Here are the final results of who you want the Jazz to draft at number 2. AJ Dybantsa, 49% of the votes. Darryn Peterson, 39%, and then Cam Boozer at 12%. So for a second, it was looking pretty close between AJ and Darryn, but at the last second, it looks like AJ took a more commanding lead. 49% of our voters.
Just went up a little bit, too. Somebody just voted.
Was that you?
No, it was not me.
You sure?
Yeah, no, I'm 1,000% positive. It was not me. I do. Again, I think bottom line, we've talked about it a little bit, and we've said it a couple times already on the show today, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, the Jazz are in a really good spot to pick a franchise-chasing player with the number 2 overall pick. Again, whether that be AJ Dybantsa, whether that be Darryn, whether that even be Cam Boozer. Again, I know he's only sitting at 11%, but I do think that Cam Boozer has a really high ceiling and it has a really promising ceiling at the NBA level. And so I think no matter who the Washington Wizards pick, no matter which way Washington decides to go, the Jazz will have the ability to pick somebody who can come in and be your best player in the next 5, 6, 7+ years, right? A long-term franchise all-string player who can become not only the face of the franchise, but be amongst the best in the NBA.
I just can't wait to get it over with.
Absolutely.
Come next Saturday, we're going to be talking about the actual player instead of who it may be.
Instead of who is it going to be? Is it going to be AJ? Is it going to be Darryn? Is it going to be Cam?
When will then be now?
Exactly.
Right.
Soon. We're so close. Tuesday's the day.
Catch you next week. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Just top.